A quiet but profound escalation is taking place in Belarus. On May 12th, Alexander Lukashenko sat down with Defense Minister Viktor Krenin, and he announced to the world that Belarus was preparing for war. "We will selectively mobilize our troops. We will prepare the armed forces for combat. God willing, this can be avoided." These words had a rhetorical reality on the ground. A new Special Operations Brigade was being formed in the Homel region, and S-400s and Su-30 SM-2s continued to arrive from Russia. Road, trench, and logistics infrastructure work was accelerating near the Ukrainian border. Belarus's military activity is striking, but the decision lies not in Lukashenko's hands, but in Putin's. And Putin adopted a very different stance at the Victory Day podium in the Kremlin. In front of journalists, Putin had said, "I believe the conflict in Ukraine is nearing its end." On one hand, a signal of peace. On the other, preparations for war. This is the application of the Maskurovka concept in Russian military doctrine. However, this time, it is unclear who is in the crosshairs of Putin and Lukashenko. Ukraine is, of course, the first name that comes to mind. But if you expand the map a bit, the entire line stretching from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, from the Suwalki corridor to Crimea, could be on Putin's radar. However, things aren't going as planned here. This time, they're not facing just Ukraine, they're facing the entire eastern flank. Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, backed by Ukraine's drone shield. Just to the north, Finland and Sweden remain on high alert to protect the Baltic Sea and Gotland Island from the Russian-Belarusian duo. On the Black Sea axis, where Putin places his greatest trust, Romania and Turkey stand shoulder to shoulder against potential threats from either country. In other words, while the Russian leader signals the potential for a new war in Europe by diverting attention with Lukashenko, he has actually brought the region into a full-fledged military readiness phase. Now the cards are being played much more openly, and the first move comes from Lithuania. On May 13th, at the Bucharest 9 summit held in Bucharest, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda signed a comprehensive drone deal agreement. This agreement envisions the first-ever factory-level joint production of Ukraine's battle-tested drone technology in a NATO country. 4 different classes of drones: long-range strike drones, maritime drones, interceptor drones, and bomber drones, will be jointly produced on Lithuanian soil. Technology transfer will take place, with Ukrainian engineers and military experts taking direct roles at the production facilities in Lithuania. Additionally, a broad cooperation package regarding air and missile defense systems has been included in the agreement. This step taken by Lithuania has created a domino effect. At the same summit, Latvia received a parallel proposal focused on air defense, and Ukrainian experts have already headed to Riga. Here's the interesting part. Latvia had sent 12,000 drones to Ukraine in 2025. Now the roles are reversing, and Ukraine's expertise in electronic warfare and counter-drone operations is being transferred to Latvia's own defense. Estonia requested an air security expert immediately following drone diversion incidents. Discussions with Finland regarding long-range drones and airspace security have also accelerated. This drone deal poses a serious strategic challenge for Russia and Belarus, because the inexpensive and effective drones developed by Ukraine on the front lines will now be mass-produced on the territory of the Baltic states. As a result, Lithuania and other Baltic countries will be able to respond to potential Russian hybrid attacks and drone threats both more quickly and at a lower cost. But the Baltic countries aren't just acquiring drones, they're making their borders physically impassable. Estonia is constructing 600 pop-up concrete shelters along its 300-kilometer border with Russia. Dragon's teeth are being laid along the borders of Lithuania and Latvia. Behind these lie anti-tank trenches, minefields, and layered trench systems. For example, Lithuania's defense line is 3-layered. The first obstacles are located 5 kilometers inland from the border, followed by blow-up bridges and tree-felling barriers, with reserve trenches and positions at the very rear. The European press has dubbed this line the Maginot Line of the 21st century. But this time, the goal is not an offensive. It is to buy enough time to halt a potential Russian ground operation within hours. At the same time, the 3 Baltic countries have raised their defense budgets to record levels, reinstated mandatory military service, and are planning joint arms purchases worth billions of euros from the EU. This line, fortified on land in the Baltics, is also being strengthened in the air. Poland has taken the lead here. One of the biggest lessons from the war in Ukraine was that cheap kamikaze drones could bypass expensive air defense systems, and Europe has embarked on a massive project to close this gap. Officially known as the European Drone Defense Initiative, it aims to create a continuous drone shield along the eastern border, stretching from Finland to Romania. This is not a physical wall. It consists of a multi-layered electronic shield comprising radar networks, sensor arrays, AI-powered early warning systems, signal jammers, and anti-drone weapons. The goal is simple: to detect and neutralize any drone coming from Russia or Belarus before it crosses the border. In January 2026, a $4.3 billion contract for the SAN anti-drone system was signed with a consortium comprising the Norwegian firm Kongsberg and the Polish firm PGZ. This system, to be deployed along Poland's eastern border, will begin its first deliveries by the end of 2026. The Polish Ministry of Defense describes the project as autonomous swarms patrolling the air and anti-drone radars, operating on the logic of the Great Wall of China. And this system was designed to work in conjunction with NATO's Operation Eastern Sentry. Meanwhile, the European Sky Shield Initiative, led by Germany, brings together approximately 24 countries under a common shield using Patriot, Iris-T, and Arrow 3 systems to counter threats far greater than drones. On the ground, Dragon's Teeth will stop tanks. In the air, the UAV wall will block drones. And in the sky, the missile shield will counter ballistic threats. In other words, a three-layered defense architecture is in place.